Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another player profile. This time we are here with one of the brightest minds in the Dragon Ball Super card game, one of the craziest theory crafters I know, Pat O'Neill. So Pat, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and give us your TCG and Dragon Ball Super background.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So I'm Pat O'Neill. I've been playing card games probably at this point for close to 20 years since I was like a kid. I'm a little bit on the older side when it comes to some of you young guys that still play this game. I started with Magic the Gathering when my friends introduced me to it back in Urza's block. It wasn't really my cup of tea. Started with Pokemon. After that, I went to Pokemon after that. Then progressed to Yu-Gi-Oh, where I started to, get decent at a competitive level. But I didn't really hit the big time until the Naruto collectible card game, which was Bandai's previous game before this one died. I had a top at the Sonnen event, which is the equivalent of Nationals, top 8 finish there. And, that plus some connections I had, as well as, being a content producer for that game, led me to eventually get a design and testing position for Bandai. I helped kind of, along with some other people, write the course for that game and set it down a pretty good path later on in the game's lifetime. Kind of quit for a couple years after that game was done, got out of the TCG business, but came back to this one due to people like Ryan Severin, Scott Dashi, and several other old school Naruto heads, Jordan Markle as well, Nick Brady, Zach LaFlame, like those people. So yeah, that's basically why I'm here and how I got here.
So just real quick for I think people that are curious, because I'm a little curious. I think I know the story a little bit, but there was like a whole kind of disconnect between like Bandai of America and Bandai Japan when Naruto was around, right? Because I know some people think like, well, don't mad people in the Dragon Ball Super card game from Naruto just have like connections with Bandai, but that's not really the case anymore, right?
Yeah. No. There used to be a section of Bandai North America in California that was just Bandai CG, Bandai Collectible Games. They had kind of their own thing. They made games such as Dragon Ball Collectible Card Game, which was a spin-off of Naruto, Power Rangers, Resident Evil, the Uncharted board game. Those are all Bandai card game properties, games that they made. And it was headed up by like the main overseer of everything was this one of the Japanese designers. I don't know exactly his whole role, but his name was Yuya. And then under him, he had a couple of just people who are basically interns that became designers for the other games. So like it was kind of like a small group of people, maybe only like 6 to 10 in their office that actually worked on it. Most of their properties started as just we port Japanese games, but it became kind of its own entity with like a small subset of people in the office there. And then you had people like me who are just basically, I guess, outsourced, to help. Because since they're, the amount of people that they had in the office was so small.
Nice.
So, like I said, after Naruto went, though, they kind of just all dissolved. Like one designer went on to do this thing, one designer went on to do that thing, and they just kind of broke it up and they just moved everything back to Japan. So everything is now back basically with Bandai JP for this game.
Cool. Appreciate the history lesson. I know a lot of people were probably curious about that. So next up, what are some of your DBS accomplishments?
So my highest placing event would be the ARG National Invitational from last year, which was 3rd place. I got top 32 this past year in November at the Dragon Ball Super National Championships 2018. Have a couple other tops at ARG Regionals, and then obviously various like tons of tops for ARG Circuit Series and things like that.
Dope. And so far, what has been your favorite format in the Dragon Ball Super card game?
I would say probably late set 1 to early set 3. I know that encompasses a lot, but I really liked the format when it was kind of like a rock paper scissors meta, where it was I guess you could say it's kind of like a square, where it was like Tricolor Ginyu was my deck. That's the deck that I've been playing since set 1. I kind of like kept it under wraps. Jordan Markle's the one who topped with it and kind of blew it up. But yeah, so Tricolor Ginyu, Soul Striker beat that. Soul Striker would lose to Vegeta. Vegeta would lose really hard to Cell, and Cell would lose really hard to Ginyu. It was a very matchup and skill-based format. So like when those 4 decks were the dominant like premier decks in competitive play, I liked it a lot because I felt like the games went long and rewarded lots of good decisions over the course of the game.
And so far, what's been your least favorite format?
Honestly, anything where the game is compressed, basically anything where Storm is legal. So basically, since Storm came out, which was like what?
Except for
August 1st, 2018 was I think the first time you could actually play Storm in an event. It was actually the ARG Invitational, I believe. National Invitational was the first event you could possibly play a Storm-like archetype until obviously recently Super Shenron was banned. So basically, in that entire like span, anytime we have a turn 3 format is my least favorite format. Historically, I play mid-range and control and combo, which are decks that win for the turn 4 or later in most games across all formats. So anytime where we're in like a turn 1, 2, or 3 format, I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I can pretty much agree with you. And the future looks really bright now that Super Shenron's gone, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So what's been your favorite deck of all time to play so far?
There's a lot. Zamafu is the deck that is most synonymous with me. Even though it was never a super competitive deck, it was like a fringe deck at best. I would say that's probably the number 1 in my heart because I put a lot of hours into that. I came up with the concept and kind of perfected it and moved it as far as I possibly could. Had lots of support from the community. Like everybody kind of rallied behind me. It was like, oh dude, try and make it a thing. I met Danny Wynn and bonded with him over that deck. Like he and I are basically kindred Zamasu spirits. Like we love that deck. It's probably I think our favorite deck of all time. Obviously though, Tricolor Ginyu has a spot in my heart, as does Kefla midrange, because that's the kind of deck that I want to be playing, is a long grindy deck with lots of decisions. And most recently AOD Dende, because it's a combo oriented deck that rewards decision trees, which again, I'm a huge fan of that.
And so far, what's been the deck you hate facing the most?
Janimba. not close. 2 reasons. It's super simplistic. It's a deck that has a really high floor and a really low ceiling. That's not to say that the ceiling is not enough where a good player like Dehan Hardesty or somebody like Anthony Hernandez playing it couldn't do very well with it. But it's so good for how little like play skill you actually have to have with it, and it rewards you like heavily for it. I know like North Carolina celebrations at the Battle of the Gods event, somebody actually played me with Janimba in a very casual match and was like super proud that he won with it. And I was like, I love playing the guy, but like at the same time, it's like it's those moments that frustrate me just a little bit, because it's like there's so few counterplay options to Janimba.
Right.
That even though me and Trey Faircloth and a couple other people did well with it, Scott Dashy at Nationals, like that was the first event, and yes, it did get me my national top. It strikes a bad chord with me for that reason, because it's like I don't feel like when I win with Janimba that it was anything that I did for the most part. It just felt like my opponent messed up, and therefore I got the win by default. And the same thing is true with when I play against Janimba. It's like it feels like the game is outside of my control. It's just, did I draw the right card before it got milled? It's not like the card pool is deep enough where there's that many answers unless you're on like a hand control Shenron leader with Bulma. So that, like I said, it definitely strikes a sour note with me. No disrespect to anybody who actually plays it. You guys play what you enjoy the most. It's a game at the end of the day, so definitely just whatever you have the most fun playing, definitely enjoy play that. But for me, I just don't have any fun playing with or against it anymore.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I mean, it is a card game. There's a lot of RNG, but I mean, when the game feels totally out of your control, it's not like the best feeling. But if you're playing a game and you're having fun, you are a winner. So, Pat, so far, what's been your favorite event that you've been to?
Nationals 2018, because the Shenron Lair guys, like that house that we had was super awesome. Got to hang out with a ton of people, meet so many people from the community. Got to shake a lot of hands, talk to a lot of different people. People gave me, various insight that I had never thought of on the game. It felt like I was a part of like a big loving community at that event, and everybody was just there to have fun and support the game and just, make it the best event it possibly could be. It was one of a kind. I don't think I've ever been to an event like that, and I can only hope that events are like that going forward, or even better than that.
I totally agree, man. Definitely my favorite event as well. If you could go back to any event and change anything, which event would it be and why? Big question.
I guess I'd have to say ARG Nationals, the Invitational from last year, because I was this close to winning it. I got stream nerves really bad playing against Danny Hype, and I made so many questionable plays throughout the set because I was just trying to be aggressive and get it over with as fast as possible. So yeah, I think I punted that match like really, really hard. And had I beaten Danny Hype, I think I had a pretty good chance of winning the whole thing. I would have had to play Eric Hill in the finals, and in tournament play, I'm pretty sure either Eric Hill and I are either even or I am slightly favored. I have worse luck against Eon Hill. Eon Hill, I win against all the time in casual play, but in tournament play, he always seems to just squeak it out. But I would think I would have been, at home playing against Eric, because I play against Eric Hill all the time. He's a good friend of mine, and I think that if I had just, stayed calm in the moment against Danny Hype, that could have been my tournament.
And I'm positive you'll get one very soon in the future. Next up, give us a story of your craziest game you've won or lost.
Okay, so same event versus Antonio Santianello. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah, close
I believe you've had him. Yeah, you've had him on your channel multiple times, man. Tony, yeah. So playing against him, man, he had me to the wall every game, and I had to play like razor tight, make every decision count, and have just a little bit of luck every step of the way to beat him. It was just like he did not give me an inch. He played absolutely perfectly. I won the game that I went first in, then he won the game he went first in, and then he came to game 3. I don't remember who went first. I just remember that he literally had no cards in hand. I had no cards in hand. And then he attacked me, and I went from 2-1. And the only way I could survive the next attack was that if the card he gave me was a super combo, so that way I could combo it to get to the match. I think it was like a 25k on a scientist poo, and then I had to get a 5k off of it. It was the only way to win the game. I just drew whatever. I don't remember exactly all the specific details. I just remember it was against him, and I drew the exact card. It was literally the only thing I could have drawn out of my life to win the game. I felt like I robbed him, and I remember he was so upset about it. And because this was a win and in. Yeah, you guys have to remember, this was a win and in for, at that time, arguably the biggest, most prestigious event. So I basically knocked him out of top cut contention with that one lucky card draw from my life. So that is definitely the closest it's ever been. And I told him I would just sing it until the end of time, that's the closest match I've ever played.
Yeah, dude, and I have no doubt in my mind that when Tony listens to this, he'll get ultra tilted again. Tony, we love you. Next question. Who are some of the DBS players you admire the most?
All right, well, I know it's not necessarily a DBS player, but the person, at least in terms of card game personalities, for those of you guys who, many of you guys who know me from Naruto and are close friends of mine know that the person that I think the most highly of is my best friend, Andrew Cardis. He taught me basically everything I know about card games. A lot of the theory you guys hear me talk about, he taught me basically everything. And he was a fellow designer with me as well, working on Naruto. So I owe him a huge debt of gratitude that I don't think I can ever repay to him. But as far as Dragon Ball Super personalities, Jose Mercado is the one who stands out the most to me, because he's super genuine, super nice, and it feels like we're the same person. We have all the same interests. We get along super well. So he's the one that stands out in my mind the most. And then obviously Matthew Coombs, Richard Zapp, get along with them super well. Frisco Foz, let's see. More recently, Trey Faircloth, he and I have been getting along great. Like there's so many like people. Jordan Markle, we've been friends for like over a decade at this point. Ryan Severin and Scott Dashy for the same reason. So yeah, like it's the boys. There's no other way to phrase it. It's the boys. I feel like I've known these people for a lifetime.
That's awesome, man. It's so dope to come across like a list like that in a community this tight knit. One more question, and then we have one more after that. What are your hopes for the future of the Dragon Ball Super card game?
Okay. I've been preaching it since set 2 when I talked to the designers at ARG Hartford, which is the very first one. I really, really hope that they introduce more counter cards, more cards that allow me to interact with my opponent. I come from games where you're rewarded for, decisions or outplaying your opponent or holding up answers for something, and this game doesn't really reward that skill set. It feels like it rewards mostly play a card, turn it sideways, throw your whole hand behind it. Like, I'm oversimplifying it, but like aggro has been, an aggressive playstyle has been rewarded more often than not in this game. I've gone over many reasons why aggro is just way more dominant than defense. It's largely because the energy requirements for cards on defense are where they should be, but the aggressive cards are, better than where they should be. Anytime like a one-cost card like Bardock, who thankfully is banned, can translate into a game win, and he's basically the floor because otherwise it would be free and everybody could play it. Defensive options need to usually just be better than offensive options on the whole. Otherwise, it's skewed towards offense. So I honestly do hope that we get better defensive cards in the future, or better cards that allow us to interact with our opponent and have a meaningful back and forth exchange at all points of the game. I would like that very much. Obviously, please, if Bandai, if you're listening, print something that answers mill, gives other decks a shot at doing it, because otherwise, if you just print a bunch of defensive options, then Janemba just gets better. So
yeah,
I would say that's pretty much what I would be looking forward to.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with a lot of those points. I always refer people to your video about like a game theory with offense and defense, where defense should be not as heavily costed as offense. I always talk about that. And final question, with the ban of Super Shenron, what are some of the decks you're toying with, looking forward to playing in the new open format? Give us a little bit of info on that.
For right now, I've been playing Chilai for quite some time. I'd say probably about a month now. Chilai Hidden Mastery was a shell I've been working on for like a long time. Didn't have quite the 50 that I wanted. Saw some of the stuff that Eggman played that was very similar to the idea that I had been playing for a bit, and kind of applied some of his stuff, kind of put my own little spin on it. And I've basically been jamming pretty much exclusively her for the last like month or so. I actually think right now she is arguably one of the strongest, if not the possible strongest deck you can play in the format. It's between that and Janemba. I don't really know too much about what the matchup looks like that. I haven't gotten enough experience or reps in versus really experienced Janemba players yet. But right now, Chilai, I think, is in a very, very good spot. And that's what I enjoy the most. Going into the next format, Zamasu has me very intrigued. I mean, I might be biased. I don't know if he's good enough, but he has the ability now to put into play many game-ending plays as early as turn 4. So I think that makes me as a fan of Zamasu. Obviously, I want to play it, but as a competitive player, I look at that and go like, "Hey, that might actually be good enough to play." Again, time will tell. There's definitely other stuff. Chilai, I don't think again is really going anywhere. I think Chilai actually just gets even better with the anniversary box. The 4-drop green Gohan that I talked about previously a couple nights ago on the live stream that I had done for the set review for the anniversary box. That card is just too good to not see play. So I definitely think that card has a home right there with Chilai. 4-drop world peace for free to get the draw 2 cards, then go immediately into piercing SS2 Sun Gohan. That's a game-ending play for free. Basically, you still have 4 energy open. So those are definitely the 2 decks that I'm looking forward to playing the most. And then obviously, if all else fails, then we just submit to our Janemba overlords.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think Gemini's gonna take over too much, but Pat, really appreciate your thoughts on all of that. Any final shout outs you want to give before we wrap this up?
Oof, I feel like I shouted out everybody though in this video. Like,
Kind of did.
I gave everybody the love. You know, I guess Joey for having me on with it here. Shenron's Lair as well. Obviously, best teammates on the planet. Love you guys so much. Obviously, Matt Combs and the guys over at 3XG Productions, who I do a bunch of stuff with all the time. Love them as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Unless we just go back to the list of usual suspects like Jordan, Ryan, Scott, Eric, Eon, Anthony, etc.
Dope, man. Everyone got a little bit of taste of the love. Pat, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Bye-bye.